Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Van Holtz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. I've got Jordan West, the famous Jordan West, on the other end of the line. You guys may know him from another podcast show, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about his e-commerce business. And he's selling clothes, right? Little and Lively.
Yes, we are hawking clothes. That is exactly right.
Tell me, well, go ahead and do your whole 30-second pitch. Let people know a little bit more about you. Oh, and you're Canadian, so I expect a lot of A's and sorries.
Yeah, totally. I actually try not to be quite as polite as I normally am on other people's podcasts, so just watch out, okay? My whole elevator pitch is I started owning a Taco Del Mar restaurant, which was a chain restaurant, which has now gone from 200-ish stores down to about 50 since I was involved in the franchise. I myself lost a lot of money in that process. Throughout all that, though, I learned marketing. And that was one thing I really wanted to get into. So fast forward all these years, my wife and I started a baby clothing company that started just the need for leggings that fit over cloth diapers. Fast forward, I guess, about 6 years after that, and we're now a mid-seven-figure business. I also run a marketing agency that helps people in that same vertical, mostly with performance marketing.
Dude, do an apparel business, mid-seven figures. Is it bootstrapped, or do you have investors, or how are you able to grow it?
Yeah, so we're completely bootstrapped. My wife and I are still 50-50 owners, and we have been able to, bootstrap the entire thing. Bootstrapping is very difficult once you start to get into those sorts of numbers. The good thing is that I have a wonderful CFO now who has, a great 5-year plan that's really modest and really shows where we're going to hit cash crunches so that we can plan ahead for those.
So apparel, I always wanted to do apparel. I think it's just something cool about creating clothes that people wear and building that identity. But they're pretty tight margins, aren't they? Where are you getting all this stuff made? Talk about the operations behind this beast.
It's interesting that you say that with the tight margins. And I've heard that from a lot of people. And I kind of think sometimes that's an outward view of apparel. We actually make everything in Canada. So the only thing that we bring in from China is fabric. We just don't have any mills in our area. There are some in the US, again, pricing with people in the US, but we bring in our fabric and everything is actually manufactured in our hometown. So we work we're about as close to vertically integrated as you can get with our manufacturer. I would love to purchase them, but that's just not in the cards right now. So yeah, we're, to be totally frank, we try and run double keystone pricing. So our retail cost is about 25%. Those are fine margins for us to be able to acquire customers and to have a really healthy profit margin, especially as a bootstrap business.
Okay. So are you guys selling through the channel as well? You've got stockists or retailers?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So that was the main reason why we made sure that we actually don't do keystone pricing for our retailers. We actually do 60-40 for them if they want to be retailers. So we're in about 150 stores across Canada and probably about 30 to 40 in the United States. So that's not an area that we've focused on as of right now. That's somewhere that we'd love to expand into, but we're really trying to make sure that we're kind of the premier children's clothing brand in Canada.
Yeah. So your focus is purely on the Canadian market then, right?
Yeah, totally. The only marketing that we actually do in the United States is just retargeting. Everything else is just organic for us in the States.
As an American, are you Canadians really just like us? Or do you feel like there's different habits that Canadians do when it comes to online shopping?
That's a really good question. I feel like, at our agency, we've got lots and lots of clients, both in Canada and in the States. And I feel like buyer behavior is very similar in Canada. except that people don't like to be pushed, right? One big thing that I noticed, and I've talked with a lot of the people on my podcast and in our mastermind, all about how Canadians really treat their customers a little bit differently. So One example would be time crunches, right? Or putting like time limits on coupon codes. Canadians really do not respond well to that. And it's a branding play that most of our Canadian clients and us as well don't feel very comfortable with. That's a huge difference that I noticed from especially talking with some of my agency friends of how they really like the time sensitive discounts in the States. And some of that sort of like, oh, your card is expiring and those sort of things. I mean, obviously Americans catch on to that. We just really don't feel comfortable with that. And I think that's because we care a lot more about politeness, right? And being PC. So that's one big thing that I've noticed.
I feel like, kind of one of our sayings, or one of my sayings personally, is I don't take pressure, I don't give pressure. And I feel like that's probably more along the lines of what you guys kind of feel. Is just like, I'll make the decision if I'm ready. And
totally.
I definitely resonate with that. So maybe I got a little bit of Canadian in me. So your product offering is pretty deep. Like you can just keep on scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I would imagine by having your operations so close, that allows you to have like lower order quantities and kind of produce on demand. Are you guys producing like seasonally? How frequently are you turning that inventory?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I think that's why I feel essentially vertically integrated with our manufacturer, because we are their biggest customer. So what we'll actually do is at the beginning of the season, we'll make our best educated guess as to what sizes and which styles that we think are going to move the fastest. But we're able to turn around our inventory in about 2 weeks for fairly large quantities. And our manufacturer knows that that's the way that we operate. Some of our other clients will, just make one big order at the beginning of the season, whereas we'll order enough fabric, but we don't exactly know what we're going to make that fabric into until we do our launch. And so we had a recent launch where in a single day, we did about $250,000, no discounts, no ads. And that really gave us a good idea of what people wanted. And so we're working feverishly still to restock those items. So obviously the more SKUs that we have and the more sizes that we have, we're introducing larger sizing as well this year. So that adds a lot of extra SKUs into our women's line. Yeah, it's difficult, but I think that it's less difficult than if we were manufacturing overseas and we just had to make educated guesses.
Yeah, that's pretty unreal. I've never had a $250,000 day before. Was it wild? And are you guys doing your own fulfillment as well, or?
Yeah, exactly. So we do our own fulfillment, and it wasn't just a $250,000 day. The next day was 50,000, and the day after that was 40,000, and so it was like these really big days. We felt like we actually graduated to a different size business when we did that launch, and we're still sort of in that phase right now. And it took our staff. Generally, we were able to do next day fulfillment. We have our fulfillment staff is kind of that quick, and it took us about a month to catch up. And we really so far have seen very little repercussions for that long fulfillment time through our VIP group and through the feedback that we get. Most people are just really supportive and just glad that we're doing so well.
What did you do to generate that much hype? Is it just through your email list, or did you prep it with some Facebook marketing?
Yeah. Great question. This is like what I've been loving to talk about lately, just because I really feel like there's a lot of psychology that went in behind this launch. So we did what's called a gated launch. And some of you out there may have done gated launches before. I'll explain to you how I feel like they work incredibly well. So we have a VIP group that's our Little and Lively VIP group. And we also have an SMS group that's attached to that. So those two groups will get notifications ahead of time for sales. So what we do is we actually lock the website and make it password protected. And in this case, we actually password protected the site for 24 hours to get ready for this launch, just because it was so many products and we just really wanted to make sure it was perfect. We got the anticipation up, and then we gave our VIP group and our SMS list 2 hours early access before the general public. And during those 2 hours, we did about $120,000 in sales, and we didn't give out any discount codes. And what we did beforehand, because I say we didn't use any Facebook ads, but obviously we used Facebook ads to get people into those lists, right? So I'm a huge believer in the customer journey. You're not going to have long-term customers if you just sell to them right off the bat. So I really love moving people farther and farther down that funnel to the place where they really become advocates for us. And I think that's what we saw on this launch. And we also saw this sort of idea of scarcity, which was actually real because we did end up selling out of a lot of items that we didn't realize were going to be so popular, especially on the women's side. Our women's side is almost 50-50 to our kids' side now. So that's really how this launch ballooned into what it was gating it and password protecting the website. And then 2 hours later, we opened it up to the general public.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how, to me, it's very similar to, this deal ends in 20 minutes, but it's you have access to it for 2 hours and then, everyone else gets access. So it's just kind of like those fine tweaks you can make to like, really, I want to call it like take advantage of people's like impulses, but understand their culture and what it incentivizes them to act. That's pretty cool. So was this launch like a brand new like adult line, or was it something completely remarkably different, or was it just like a new season?
Yes, it was a new season. So we do 2 main season launches. We'll do a spring, summer, and a fall, winter. So those are our big launches, but we actually save a lot of the products to release throughout the season as well, just so that we've got a lot of new product news. So we'll release like a Christmas collection as well. Every year we do personalized shirts. So the way that we do our graphics on our shirts is with vinyl, which is awesome because we can change on the fly, and we're not really committed to, a screen printed shirt. So it works really well for our aesthetic. So we actually do personalized shirts at one point. I think we're going to do that late October this year. And yeah, we're really constantly trying to develop new products that people like. And we'll also ask people for feedback, especially in our VIP group. So we'll ask them for feedback on a couple of new releases that we're thinking of. We'll get, 500 people putting their hands up that they want it, which is awesome because as soon as we release it, half of those people go and purchase on the website, which is amazing.
Now, you've mentioned your VIP group a couple times. This is a Facebook group you've created, and how are you encouraging people to get in there and to interact and engage?
Yeah, so we've got some follow-up sequence that we use that's actually very manual. So we'll send the sort of classic Klaviyo follow-up sequence on email, but we also send a personalized video to every single new customer that orders, letting them know about our VIP group and that if they have questions, that's probably the best place to ask them. So I have created a whole system with a virtual assistant who sends out these personalized videos, saying the person's name, saying what they ordered, and then asking them if they'd like to join the VIP group.
Dude, I'm stealing that.
Bonjoro. Just so you know, it's a great app. We're partners with them. They're wonderful.
Wait, what was it called again?
Bonjoro.
Bonjoro, like French hellos. I assume it's kind of like, what do they call, Looms, where you just do a quick recording, you put it up on a website, and they'll click on a link and go there.
Yeah, totally. They've got like an email integration. So it's really cool because it's an actual iPhone app. So our virtual assistant, because she's sending hundreds of these at a time, we'll just have it set up. It makes it into a task. She clicks on it. She can see all of the information about the person right there. And then as soon as she presses send, it'll send the video right to them. They do have to click and then it goes onto a page. So similar to Loom, just a little bit more customer service, B2C focused.
I really want to dig into this a little bit more. First of all, how did you find the right person? And then I would assume this really generates a lot of, kind of preemptive customer service, which is better than post-emptive when something comes in, it's broken, or they're kind of having negative experiences. When they reply to this or they start to engage with this intro, how is that typically handled? Do you have another customer support team on the back end?
Yeah, so if somebody responds within there, because Bonjoro actually has their own chat, we make sure to forward that to our customer service team. And then any quick responses, we've actually trained our virtual assistant to do that. So we first actually tried with our in-house staff to do the videos. And the issue was our in-house staff, they just weren't motivated to do the videos. It would take them about 10 minutes per video. Whereas our virtual assistant, we can get her to do about 40 an hour because she really has a process down. So I tried with multiple of our staff to try this video. I basically given up on it because I thought, this isn't going to work. Luckily, I've got a team of... how many do I have now? I've got a lot of virtual assistants across our 2 businesses. And there was one that I thought would just be absolutely perfect. So we got them all to send in videos. We gave them a script, got them to send in videos. And I was super, super happy. And the one that's doing it for us right now, her name is Andy. And she is absolutely incredible.
Is she over in the Philippines or is she just like a remote?
Yeah, so she's in the Philippines. And then we have one virtual assistant who kind of manages the rest of our VAs who is in Ohio.
Okay. How do you get started on that train? Like I always hear about people using VAs and to me, it's kind of like a crapshoot, like people who do it well, they've figured out the process, but if you don't have that process, it can be very painful.
Totally. I got so ridiculously lucky when I hired Abby for the first time years ago. So Abby actually was originally from the Philippines. She reached out to me saying like, hey, do you want some help? Reached out to me actually on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like most entrepreneurs, like working from morning to night and had no time. And I'm like, okay, what can she take off my plate? And she had her own processes and she was incredible. Most people, that's like really not going to happen. If you don't have the processes in place, having a virtual assistant is actually going to be more work for you. Something I found really, really helpful recently is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Nathan Hirsch. He's got a program called Outsource School that actually has all of the SOPs to work with virtual assistants. And I have found his course just so incredibly helpful, mostly for the SOPs that he has within there, that I'm able to just give right over to my VAs.
Yeah, that would knock down a lot of barriers, I think, to get in there. You're working directly with VAs rather than working through a firm then. And then I guess you have the VA to kind of manage all your VAs. How many VAs are on your team?
I think we work with about 5 right now through the marketing agency and through our clothing company.
And what is compensation typically in the range for a VA?
I think that we sort of pay on the higher side. So we pay about $10 US an hour. We're really not trying to get cheap labor. We're trying to get really good people that can do tasks that we've had a harder time hiring for in Canada.
Yeah. Well, how is it doing business in Canada? Speaking of which, is it a lot of red tape? Is it pretty easy to get up and running? Any kind of regulatory issues that you need to run into as an apparel manufacturer?
No, I mean, it's probably pretty similar to doing business in the States. I'd say the one big difference is that our shipping costs are a lot higher. So we have to really build that into our price. The other issue is that we're paying a lot of our costs in US dollars and we're receiving Canadian dollars, which is worth about 30% less today than the American dollar. So that's definitely one thing that we always need to keep in mind when we see prices. Most prices for SaaS products, our fabric, we're all paying in US dollars. Even though it's coming from China, that's just what they like, is US dollars. Those are the big things. But as far as regulation is concerned, we're probably not as regulated as Americans think that we are.
Yeah, I have no ideas about any kind of regulations in Canada. I assume it's pretty similar. But, Canada's only got, 25 million people there?
I think we're actually closer to 40 million now.
I'm way off. Jeez.
Yeah.
So it's a lot smaller market, and the shipping rates are pretty obscene as well. So you're over in BC, British Columbia.
Yeah.
Going to any city, I would imagine, is pretty cost effective, but there's some pretty rural areas. Are you subsidizing a lot of shipping costs, or how do you have that set up?
Yeah, we have a free shipping threshold of $100, which is great because that makes our average order value usually about $115, I believe we're at right now. It's actually cheaper for us to send a package anywhere in the United States than it is to send a package to Ontario. So even if I want to send a package to Toronto, it's about, I think our rate now is like $12. And we have really good rates with Canada Post. Whereas I can send a package anywhere in the United States tracked for $10. It's definitely just a cost that we really build into doing business.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well with Beard Brand, sending up to people in Canada, the rates can be pretty obscene. And a lot of them are turned off by the higher rates. We just do auto-populated FedEx rates, whatever they may be. And unfortunately, we can't send products across border without customs and duties, which is another annoyance for our market over there. How is the competition there? Are you fighting Amazon a bunch, or do Canadians tend to support local businesses, smaller businesses?
Support local is definitely, at least in our community, and I think for our customers, our core customers, is really a part of them. I think that for them, shopping on Amazon would, for clothing at least, to be akin to shopping at Walmart, right? And those aren't the customers that buy from us. It's just not the same customer. I think that they really trust that their money is going to a good place, and they know that it's good quality and that they can actually trust us. I think that's the big thing about Amazon, right? Is that you kind of have that built-in trust with Amazon being your parent. Whereas for us, we've had to build up that trust over the years.
Yeah. A couple of things I always like to talk on is when I hear about husband and wife teams. You guys are still married?
We are.
How do you do that, man?
You know what? We don't work together a lot. I used to actually come to staff meetings every week, and I don't even come to staff meetings anymore because it's really good for her to have, she's the CEO. It's good for her to have the leadership there. I am technically the CMO. And so I deal with all things marketing related, but I'm also running a fairly large marketing agency, and I'm the CEO of that. So it really keeps us It keeps us separated. And when we do have to work together on something, it's actually wonderful. Like we planned a work date tonight because we're launching a new mobile app and we want to make sure that all of the kinks are worked out now. So
are you able to turn work off, after hours, or is it just a nonstop thing?
I am really good at turning work off. I actually only work from 9:30 in the morning till 2 p.m. my time. And the rest of the time is devoted to family, unless we're going to do something that's a little bit outside of that. I really believe, and I actually posted on LinkedIn about this today, I really believe in Parkinson's law that whatever time you're given, you will fill. If say I work till 3, I would just fill that with more busy work, So I've really made sure that my life is family first and not just given lip service to it. In the end, what's the difference between, now that we're mid 7 figures, like what's the difference profit wise to me, you working that extra hour every day? It doesn't really enhance my life comparatively to the time I get to spend with my 7-year-old, my 5-year-old, and my 1-year-old.
Yeah, a couple of questions I have regarding that. One, how do you feel your limited time, that effect on your team is? Like where your team sees you only working from 9 to 2, do you feel like they have an entitlement to kind of not put in that time, or do you kind of expect your team to work the same hours as well?
As far as the marketing agency is concerned, our team knows that there may be work outside of work hours, right? And just because I stop working at 2 doesn't mean I'm not answering Slack messages after that when people are asking me. But they know that my priorities are family first. And so for us, if we know not to overload our account managers with too many clients, that they can't service them within the time that they're given. I also think that it's inspiring for them to know that like life is not just about work. I had an interview with somebody, a potential account manager yesterday, and they said, yeah, I want to work 80 hours a week. I was like, well, that's not really our goal for you. We want you to have a life outside of work because I feel like they can be a lot more effective when it's not just work.
Yeah. And so do they have the expected 40 hours? Here in America, it's 40 hours a week. Is that the same in Canada or?
Yeah. Basically, everybody that we have works hourly for us. So they're expected to work 40 hours a week. Sometimes it'll be, they put in a couple hours at night. We've got one mom that works for us on the marketing agency side who will just get in her hours when she can. And we try and be really flexible on both companies on that because I really do believe in it. And I believe that it's really important and not just for me because I can afford to do that.
So the other question you kind of alluded to is like, the extra hour of time. You're already mid 7 figures and growing. Like, what is the goal for the business? Where do you see it going in 5 years, 10 years? Are you going to try to exit? How is it going to be built out?
I picture this brand. I picture Little and Lively and the Kindred Clothing Co. is the women's brand. I picture those as our core brands that we can catapult off of. I'm really working through this as a person right now, what my purpose is, because I feel like since I was early 20s, my whole goal was to make a lot of money, right? And that was always, and I'm sure a lot of people think about this. I feel like that one day where we made $250,000 was actually one of those sort of psychological worst days that you can have, where you're like, oh man, this is so repeatable. I can do this. And I've kind of got that thing that I wanted this whole time. And you realize like, oh man, what's my life about? That's sort of the crisis that I feel like I'm in right now, where I know that there's more to life than just this, yet I want to grow these businesses as big and as healthy as I can. So we've got really big revenue number goals. But what I'd like to see more is some of our staff step into more responsibility and for them to have the potential to have the kind of life that we have. That would make me incredibly happy. We're looking at a few acquisitions right now as well. And I've talked a lot with my business coach about this, that I only want to make the acquisition if I can put somebody in place that it would really change their life and empower them to have the same kind of life and purpose and goals that I have been able to have.
I think this is a really important and vital kind of topic of discussion for me. It's something I've thought about a lot, and I just tweeted this yesterday night or something like that. But the question was, if I could give you $50 million and the only stipulation is you could no longer work, you could only live a pure hedonistic lifestyle, so just consumption, just leisure, no like actual creating or working or getting stuff done, would you do it?
Yeah, I'm sure you know my answer. I wouldn't. I would be so bored. I think that we've seen that with people, and I'm trying to think of a specific example right now, but like maybe Howard Hughes, like people who have everything that they want, then there's this like ache of like, is that really everything that I want? That $50 million. I mean, that'd be really hard to turn down, but to not have a purpose, I think a purpose is really what gives life some sort of meaning.
Yeah. So, you know, what's interesting is I did this as a poll, not just a simple, like, you know, talk about it. And the results were, to me, pretty surprising. 54% of the people said they would take it, just the pure hedonistic life with that money and just sitting on the beach all day long. And then the other 46% would not do it. And to me, I agree with you. Like, I can't imagine, like, I think it changes when you enjoy work, right? When you found your purpose, like, gives you energy and you feel like you're making a dent on the world. And I would imagine a lot of people are still trying to find that right fit for so many people.
Totally. I think that it's kind of like a hierarchy of needs question almost, right? Like if you're still stuck in the survival and the bottom of that pyramid, then of course that's what you're thinking of, right? And you think that it's this beautiful thing when you get to beyond that, right? But really at some point their purpose needs to come into your life and legacy and all of these sort of things and impact. That's what I've really been thinking about recently of like, you know, say you had that $50 million and all you did was sit around, you were making zero impact on the world.
Right. I mean, other than helping whatever companies you're buying stuff from, but you know, what kind of life is that? Not one that I would live. You've got a couple of kids as well, right?
I have three kids.
Three kids. Yeah. So it's nice that you're able to devote that time. I feel you're kind of that staple of like why people go into business, right? To be able to have that freedom. Do you guys have core values that you kind of live by or?
Totally. Yeah. That's actually something my wife and I have been talking a lot about. My other business partner on the marketing side, we really try and run our decisions through those core values. So one of our core values on both companies' side and within our family is family first. That to me, if it's a decision of like, hey, should I go, you know, before COVID, like go take that speaking gig, but it's going to impact me being able to be there for my kids, I'm going to choose my family every time. So to me, that really matters. We've got, I think we've got about 5 kind of core values that we talk about. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones off the top of my head.
Oh no, Jordan, you're killing me. You got to know your core values like the back of your hand.
Well, I've got one that it's because there's 3 different sets of core values, right? I mean, there's 4 really. When I think about like my personal core values, my family's core values, I've got Little and Lively's core values, and then I've got Mindful Marketing's core values. And yes, they're very similar. And I think that one that goes across all of them is that really, to me, family matters more than anything. And the other one is the no a-hole policy. As soon as that comes up, as soon as we start interacting with somebody, say like a vendor or a client or anybody like that, we've just got a strict policy that like we're not going to spend our time with people like that. And that's not to say people don't change. I really do believe that they do, but
yeah, or people are having bad points in their life. It's totally understandable. I'm lazy, you know that? So my core values are just the same for everything, whether it be business or personal life or whatever. I'm just like, these core values are good enough for my personal life. They're good enough for work or vice versa.
Yeah, totally. The problem for me is that I'm a kind of a bit of a people pleaser. So if I've got, you know, my business partner wants core values on this side, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think it's fair that, you know, like you've got to have it work for the business as well, because different business will maybe have different goals, you know, like whereas one business is designed to kind of create a lifestyle of freedom, you know, another one maybe created to take over the world. So you need to have slightly different core values to align with those. Jordan, how can people get that really cool welcome video? How can people find you? What should they do next?
Yes. Welcome video. You can order at littleandlively.com. That's right, .com. Even though we're Canadian, we bought the .com.
Big time.
So, and you can, at some point, you can test out our mobile app as well. I'm super, super excited about that.
And then your marketing company, are you on Twitter or anywhere else like that?
I actually spend most of my social time on LinkedIn. So I'm linkedin.com/Jordan-West-marketer, which is funny because I don't actually picture myself as a marketer anymore.
Well, you're a mindful marketer.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you can search Mindful Marketing. We love the e-commerce space. I love to have just e-commerce conversations like this one.
Sweet, man. I'm really pleased that you took time out of your day and away from your family to be on the show. It does mean a lot to me that you did that. So hopefully our guests took a nugget or two. If they didn't, I don't care, because I took some really good nuggets from this conversation, and I'm going to write them all down and passing them on to my team to try to get them implemented. So thank you so much for being on the show. This has been another e-commerce Conversations. Cheers. Keep on growing.